What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about on a daily basis, including money, investing, the stock market, the fourth stimulus package update, and stimulus check update. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, make sure to click the subscribe button down below. It's completely free to do so. And remember that new videos come out here on our YouTube channel every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. President Biden, who is now over in Europe, has multiple different announcements here today. Let's start with that. We got a lot to talk about here today. Here we go.
So you've warned about the real threat of chemical weapons being used. Have you gathered specific intelligence that suggests that President Putin is deploying these weapons, moving them to position, or considering their use? And would the U.S. or NATO respond with military action if he did use chemical weapons?
You know, on the first question, I can't answer that. I'm not going to give you intelligence data, number one. Number two, we would respond. We would respond if he uses it. The nature of the response would depend on the nature of the use.
So first, President Biden asked if they would respond militarily if Putin uses chemical weapons or worse. And Biden says we would respond. The nature depends on, of course, what happens, but he says we would respond. So it kind of, this kind of goes with what we've been talking about, that will Putin stop? How do you stop him? How long will this go on? How does the war end? All these are questions we all kind of have to start thinking about in our minds.
Mr. President, in your view, does President Zelensky need to cede any Ukrainian territory in order to gain a ceasefire with Russia, or is that completely off the table? And then also, do you think that Russia needs to be removed from the G20?
On the latter point, my answer is yes. That depends on the G20. That was raised today, and I raised the possibility, if that can't be done, if Indonesia and others do not agree, then we should, in my view, ask to have both Ukraine be able to attend the meetings, as well as basically Ukraine being able to attend the G20 meeting and observe. With regard to, what was the first question?
If you think that Ukraine needs to cease, give up any territory in order to get a ceasefire.
That is a total judgment based on Ukraine. Nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. I don't believe that they're going to have to do that, but that's a judgment. There's negotiations, that are discussions, I should say, that have taken place that I have not been part of, including the Ukrainians, and it's their judgment to make.
So President Biden says that Russia should be removed from the G20, and they're announcing more sanctions on Russia. This comes, I'll get to this here in a second, but this comes as recent polls here from the United States, from Americans, show that a lot of Americans, particularly Republicans, think that Biden is being too weak on Russians, but they don't want to go to war with Russia. So it's kind of imagine you're president, right? And people want, particularly Republicans, want you to be harder on Putin, but not go to war with him. Now imagine you're president. How do you walk that fine line there? It's a very difficult task, right? Especially when Putin's threatening with nuclear weapons here on every single day, basically, and threatening every country that helps Ukraine. And we just had Mitch McConnell, a leader of the Republicans in the Senate, and he just basically kind of backed Biden and said that he thinks Biden is doing a decent job, but needs to provide more as well, but just maybe a little bit quicker. But that by providing weapons to Ukraine is a way to provide air assistance and a no-fly zone to Ukraine. It's just that Ukraine people would have to man the whatever supplies we send them, not American troops. Mitch McConnell himself, the leader of the Republicans in the Senate, says that even if Ukraine needs more money, that we should give it to them. We should give it to them. And in fact, almost all the bills that have been proposed so far have been passing with both Republican and Democratic support. So you can let me know your thoughts on this, but this is kind of a world issue because you can see how this is affecting everybody here, not just in the US, not just in Ukraine, not just in Russia. The price of gas, the price of inflation, but also, we kind of got the threats of World War III, the threat of nukes, and how do you stop somebody like Putin?
The United States is committed to provide over $2 billion in military equipment to Ukraine since I became president, anti-air systems, anti-armor systems, ammunition, and our weapons are flowing into Ukraine as I speak. And today, I'm announcing the United States is prepared to commit more than $1 billion in humanitarian assistance to help get relief to millions of Ukrainians affected by the war in Ukraine. Many Ukrainian refugees will wish to stay in Europe, closer to their homes. But we also will welcome 100,000 Ukrainians to the United States with a focus on reuniting families. And we will invest $320 million to bolster democratic resilience and defend human rights in Ukraine and neighboring countries. We're also coordinating with the G7 and the European Union on food security as well as energy security. And I'll have more to say about that tomorrow. We're also announcing new sanctions of more than 400 individuals and entities in alignment with the European Union. More than 300 members of the Duma, oligarchs, and Russian defense companies that fuel the Russian war machine. In addition to the 100,000 U.S. forces now stationed in Europe to defend NATO territory, NATO established, as you already know, 4 new battle groups in Romania, Hungary, Bulgaria, and Slovakia to reinforce the Eastern Front. Putin was banking on NATO being split. My early conversation with him in December and early January was clear to me he didn't think we could sustain this cohesion. NATO has never been more united than it is today. Putin is getting exactly the opposite what he intended to have as a consequence of going into Ukraine. We've built that same unity with the European Union and with the leading democracies of the G7.
Also, the U.S. has determined that Russia has committed war crimes in Ukraine. And this could be particularly important going forward as the ICC, the International Criminal Court, could basically prosecute potentially Russia and Putin as a war criminal. And what could happen as of that? That could be very, very interesting because the whole world could. I mean, we'll have to see what could happen is that, but don't think nothing could happen is that because look at what is already happening to Russia because of sanctions and countries literally not wanting to trade with Russia, the US not wanting to trade with Russia. We're already not buying their oil. And as you can see here, as of today, Biden says Russia should be booted from the G20, which would be another major blow. But Russia's economy has shrunk in half since invading Ukraine. I mean, imagine how major that is. And if their president is labeled as a war criminal officially by the International Criminal Court, I mean, imagine what it could do to other major countries and corporations to further not do business with them and also make their dollar, the ruble, and their stock market crumble even more. Even more, and who knows what it could actually lead to. I'll keep you up to date here. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said yesterday that the Biden administration has determined that Russian forces have committed war crimes in Ukraine. Our assessment is based on a careful review of available information from public and intelligence sources. As with any alleged crime, a court of law with jurisdiction over the crime is ultimately responsible for determining criminal guilt in specific cases. The U.S. government will continue to track reports of war crimes and will share information we gather with allies, partners, and international institutions and organizations as appropriate. We are committed to pursuing accountability using every tool available, including criminal prosecutions, Blinken added, saying, quote, Russia's forces have destroyed apartment buildings, schools, hospitals, critical infrastructure, civilian vehicles, shopping centers, ambulances, leaving thousands of innocent civilians killed or wounded. Many of these sites Russia's forces have hit have been clearly identifiable as been in use by civilians. President Biden will be asking for even more money this year than he asked for last year, which was already an increase over the previous administration, former President Donald Trump's spending budget on defense as well. So again, they're spending more money on defense of our country every single year. Biden to ask for $813 billion in defense for this upcoming fiscal year, which starts on October 1st for national security spending. So this would again be a new all-time spending. Defense does seem kind of more important than ever now that there is a legitimate risk of, well, World War III. So last year he actually asked for more as well, and Congress actually approved more than he asked for. I think it was 30 or 40 billion dollars more than he asked for, just off the top of my head. So Biden asked for more than the previous administration, and then Congress actually approved a little bit more, well, not a little bit more, but 30 or 40 billion more as well. So I'll keep you up to date on that as well. Republican Senator Mitt Romney from the GOP, says he's working on a counteroffer from the Democrats on new virus funding plan that he received today or last night. So this is for new virus relief funding because, well, apparently they've spent all that money. So they are working on bipartisan efforts right now. Remember that Mitt Romney is also working on a potential $4,200 per year for the child tax credits for children under the age of 6 would actually get $350 per month. And for children over the age of 6 to 17 would be $3,000 per year. So that would be the same amount per child, but there is bipartisan support right now for the child tax credits, which are those monthly checks that went out all of last year, but are currently paused, are currently not going out because Democrats have not been able to pass it on their own, largely in part because of Senator Joe Manchin has kind of been stuck in the mud, so to speak. And now Republicans are actually stepping up, and Mitt Romney being the leader of that, he's got other Republicans in support there as well, which would probably require a work requirement there and an income cap. But Mitt Romney's bill actually has more money in there for children under the age of 6 of $4,200 per year or $350 per month as well. And if you've been watching my show, there's multiple different bills here for potential fourth stimulus checks on the national level, on the federal level, because of the price of gas and because of inflation. We have multiple different bills and proposals here from lawmakers for checks and or monthly checks that could go as high as $300 a month or $3,600 a year for adults. It's actually the same amount as the child tax credit as well, which is actually kind of a good sign because we know that those child tax credits did go out for all of last year, and $3,600 a year is a lot of money. Those monthly checks do kind of add up. And then we also have multiple different states that are passing checks as well. So in fact, I just did a video in the last video that just announced new debit cards for $400 and $800. I'll link you to that video here in just a moment. If you didn't see that video, you definitely want to watch that video next. But yeah, going forward, there's going to be a very real possibility that a lot of people are going to get checks or debit cards or monthly checks, whatever it's going to end up being here. A lot of people are going to probably or possibly end up getting checks from their states and the federal level. Remember, we've already gotten stimulus check 1, stimulus check 2, stimulus check 3. A lot of people have gotten state stimulus checks as well. Remember, the big one last year, just from one state, was California. 27 plus million people got their stimulus checks just from California alone. We've seen other states do stimulus checks as well, or tax rebates, which is kind of the same thing. And we're seeing a lot of states do that here in 2022 as well. We're also starting to see a lot of states pause their state gas tax as well, which is just kind of another way to give money back to their people as well. It's maybe not as exciting as getting a check, but it does still do the same type of thing. Every time you go to fill up gas, you'll be saving some money. Other states are pausing their grocery tax, sending tax rebate checks for homeowners or renters. All sorts of different things here going on here. I'm going to keep you up to date with everything. So make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel if you haven't yet. It's completely free to do so. I'll keep you up to date on all these things that you need to know about, of course, as well as what's going on here in our country. Subscribe is completely free to do so. And remember that new videos come out here on our YouTube channel every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I had 2 really good videos just come out here recently. This is a video about Social Security raises that are going to be really big in the future. And this video was about the $400 and $800 debit cards that were just announced. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.